Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You have not forgotten your roots. Oh, thank you so very much. And I am saying this without any ounce of sarcasm. The only reason why I sound sarcastic right now is that I would have been a lot happier if it weren't for the fact that people's comments are to be expected. But more than that, it's been an extremely exhausting day, but we're not here to talk about my personal life or whatever fear happens in that way. But yeah, this is Eden Zero, chapter 84. And what happened is just exactly as what everybody happened. Last week's chapter was a heartbreak, and also, to be frank, one of those chapters I absolutely loathe to read. It really changes the perspective of everything. The only unfortunate thing is that that is just the kind of chapter that people want to read. After all, when you read a type of chapter like that, the status quo and everything changes, and then you get to higher expectations. So I understand that it's good on a writing situation, but I do not like that, especially not from Hiromashima's work. Leave that to those artists that I do not like to see. So what happened here is just exactly as everybody predicted it to be. But also, one thing I predicted it to be. I said this was his stick, and it seems to have been his stick. But none. What happened? Well, first of all, it's been 1 week after Shiki's death. And it's revealed that Sibir, the old man Sibir, was indeed killed right there and there. We see a terrifying shot of Pino and Happy in a junkyard, eerily making this similar to when they were on Norma's ship and find the young one, and Shiki found that, well, Jani, was that his name? Well, uh, and they look half broken or maybe completely broken. Yeah, so that's a very heartbreaking scene. But the most heartbreak for all is Rebecca's. We only see Rebecca. Man, I mean, Draken Draw really broke her, and who can blame her? She saw the person she felt was her best friend killed right before her. She experienced true despair, and for 7 days she has been locked up in a room. Although they have been saying that this is her room, treated gently, and uh, every time the door opens, she goes in fear. This really shows that Rebecca has now gotten post-traumatic stress disorder. Actually, there's something we should talk about that. But if I remember at the end of the chapter, we'll talk about that first. The one who appears here is actually Laguna. And here is once again very strange. Laguna was the first person of the Elemental Four we saw. And apparently now it seems to imply that he is the, well, gentlest? Is that what I say? Because he talks to her as cordially can. But Drakenjo broke Rebecca, and she doesn't even feel any hatred towards Draken. Well, that may be wrong. She feels hatred, but it's overshadowed by an overwhelming fear. She can't fight back. She cannot even eat. That's how she is. But Laguna doesn't force her of everything else. All he says is that the boss has said to treat Rebecca as one of their own. I mean, Drakenjo, you may have been so far maybe the more developed villains so far of Eden Zero, but now you are just becoming more scummy than Spider and even Lady Kurenai. I mean, I know you were scummy, but damn, this is beyond anything else, to say the least. And it is he tries open conversation and even saying that you should understand what the boss is coming from. I mean, can you really say that to someone who just saw her best friends die? Granted, it was only one best friend, but Homera and Weiss, we do not know what happened to them. So if you ask me, they're as good as dead. Either way, all Laguna says is that she should take a shower, and saying that they don't have a camera in the shower because, yes, Rebecca is under constant watch. Although maybe that, would it be strange if that was actually some kind of clue? And now we finally, at least somewhat, finds out what Drakenjo wants, so to speak. And it's very odd, really, because this what makes this so odd, really, is is he got all of his information from Master Noah. At least that's what we assume. But Rebecca awakened her leaper, Ethan Quirk, not too that long ago. And yet everybody seems to be talking like here that she has it. This seems to imply that there is something in the cosmos that we are not understanding, because Drakenjo reveals that he wants Rebecca's ether gear, and is even revealing that the petrification ray is actually an invention that Drakenjo gave to Iliga, apparently implying that he can pull out his ether gear into weapons, which also explains the gun that was on the ship when they turned Eden Zero into paper. But it appears that that doesn't remove the ether gear from the person. No, it just duplicates it. So, and here's the thing. Leaper is supposed to be named Cat Leaper, a power that can change the laws of the cosmos. Because after all, that's just what Xiao Mei called it, the power of possibility. But he refused to tell Rebecca what it was, and saying that her power is not fully activated yet. And when it is awakened, he will extract it, because it's a forbidden power and I am the one who deserves to have it. Once again shows that Drakenjo is a man of greed. He do not only want money, he want power. And here Rebecca asks again about what is number 29. And even though she still have dull eyes of unhappiness, she has for a brief moment eyes of resolve, saying, if I just could process all this information, as she cries and begs for, but during that moment she cannot stop crying, asking for her friends. You know, all of this would have been a very sexy shower scene if it weren't for the fact that Rebecca is so emotionally broken right now. And now, at long last, what everybody predicted happens. And I am totally okay with this. Granted, however, I think I am the only one who is okay with this. After all, there are so many people saying that. And what happens is that Rebecca remembers Shiki, suddenly Leaper activates, and she leaps backwards in time. Because Drakenjo monitored it as the assistant reveals that her power has awakened, and even implying that he knew this would happen. But what I know is that he is too late to stop her, as Rebecca literally falls through time, naked and all, into with a cat tail and cat eye as well. She literally leaps backwards in time as she awakens on the bed, in the same scenario as when she collapsed in the spa, as she sees Happy and Witch again. She has now affected what we can assume, at least, rewinded time. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about some things. First of all, I'm gonna get a lot of comments complaining that this is not something they want, and they're all gonna say again and again this whole thing. But I want to be a little bit of a jerk and say, do you guys even read Fairy Tail? Do you guys even read Rave? I know you don't read Fairy Tail. After all of you have such grudge against that you just cannot let it go. But have you read Rave? Have you? And what is the point I'm trying to make? I'm trying to say, no matter what, Hiro Mashima has a way of writing. And that writing is a chapter that solves everything. He doesn't like to let things simmer. You may say that it's well developed and it's actually preferable if, some things can digest before hope can resume. But that is not how he works. I know that because I have read Raymaster, I have read Fairy Tail, and I have read Eden Zero. And I have seen these kind of things in almost all of his works. So if he didn't do this, then I would be surprised. Because then I would actually honestly say that Eden Zero is not a Hiro Mashima manga. Or more likely that he is literally trying to change. But a manga artist is not supposed to change. He's supposed to stick true to his roots. It doesn't matter if it's supposed to be good. Granted, however, there is one thing we have to pay attention to as well, which I didn't bring up first of all. Let's just say now that Rebecca has jump back for, or maybe back forward in time. That doesn't mean everything is solved, okay? We only saw Witch, we saw Happy in that same scenario as when she fell asleep in the spa. This seems to imply that that dream she had back then may actually have been an alternate reality as well, and back then Rebecca had done it before. In fact, there has been someone who wrote a manga helper that maybe number 29 means that this is the 29th time Rebecca jumped backwards in time. Or maybe now it's the 30th. I mean, if Drakenjo calls her number 30 right now, then we will know that 30 times is how much times Rebecca has jumped backwards in time. And also, so this doesn't mean that everything is resolved, okay? We haven't seen Shiki yet. So what has changed? Has everything just literally changed back to when before the disaster happened? Or has something else changed? Because this seems to imply that Rebecca can tell them the future, therefore giving them more of a fighting chance. You know, Drakenjo only won because he blindsided them. Yes, I know he overpowered them as well, but they were not prepared. They were not prepared for these three invaders trick up their sleeve. They were not prepared for that fire to fire in Wise. They were not prepared for Jin going overdrive. Of course, that doesn't exactly mean that just because you are prepared doesn't mean you have a fighting chance, but it means that Drakenjo had them all wrapped around his finger like he absolutely knew what they were doing. So does this mean that maybe now they will know what they will do? Again, there's another thing that also has to be paid attention to. Drakenjo called Rebecca's power Cat Leaper, like he almost actually knew what the power really was. Rebecca herself didn't even know. So why? How does he know that? Or more likely, how does Master Noah know all of this? There is something in this story that is not explained yet. And that is what is truly making this thing. Let's just say that Rebecca has jumped backwards in time and everything. What if Drakenjo already knows that? I mean, even if the crew know that about that and that, Drakenjo can just do something else. But maybe this will at least give them a fighting chance so that Shiki will not die. But they knew about Rebecca's power. Why did they know that? How did they know that? Rebecca herself didn't know that. There is something here that is not making sense. And I'm not saying that out of a writing perspective. I'm saying that because there is something there more deeper into the things that we are not analyzing yet. Meaning that Rebecca is destined for something. She always likes cats, but now it's even revealed that cats are themselves is part of her, so to speak. It's also the fact that Drakenjo called Shiki the one who will waken Cat. And when Rebecca was thinking of Shiki, then the power apparently activated. So is there a coincidence that Shiki and Rebecca found each other? I mean, there were a lot of people also. Finally, we're going to talk about this. A lot of people did predict this backward. In fact, it was the most logical solution of all. But other people actually wanted Shiki to awaken, be reborn, so to speak, as another person because they feel like he is connected to Mother. And here, as I say, I like that theory. I did like the theory that Shiki could have revived the dead by himself and becoming, something that is not just human, as long as he wasn't a cyborg or a robot. But here's the thing. If he did, then we will know that he's connected to Mother. This journey's all purpose is for him to find Mother. So if we will find out if Shiki is something more than just human, then we will find that out in later. Granted, I don't know how well Eden Zero is selling, so we may see that earlier than we expect. So all in all, this was a chapter I needed. But everything is not resolved yet, so I am not too happy right now. I do not mind what I'm seeing because this is just what I expect from Hiro Mishima, and that's what makes me happy. But I am not happy yet because everything is not resolved yet, and we may be blindsided again. But please, please, not another despair. We saw despair for 7 chapters, mind you. So at least now, give us hope. Give me a false gravity.